Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Building It Online podcast, a podcast all about the successes, learnings, and failures of growing businesses online. I'm Brice, this is my buddy Mike, and today we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship as a path to personal development. This is something that me and Mike were talking about. We both find it, really, really awesome that over the years, we really feel like through our businesses and through running online companies, we have become much better people. Isn't that right, Mike? So we wanted to talk about that today because I think it's such a cool thing that we both learned through the process of launching our own businesses a few years ago. And I think anyone who owns their own business has this to look forward to, but really this idea that, if you start a business, you are forced to grow into a better person than you are today in order to have a more successful business. And so entrepreneurship in itself becomes a vehicle to becoming a more badass, awesome person. And who wouldn't want that?
I've had this conversation numerous times in groups with peers asking about their process or their journey that they went through, learning how defined it was for them. If it was something that was very clear, if it was something that just happens and you don't really know about. And it was about a 50-50 split that I heard of. And for me, I kind of feel like it was the same, where when I started my entrepreneurship journey, it wasn't something that I was like, I'm going to be a much better person 5 years from now or 10 years from now. It was just something that I wanted to do to build a business. And as I went through it, you start to realize that there isn't anybody to answer the questions for you like a boss. So when I was working as a W-2 employee, I'd go to the boss and ask him, and he would help me. Now, if there's a question, everyone comes to me, and I have to go figure it out. And I think that's the first part that triggered for me the personal development side, where when you look up and no one else is there to answer, you have to go figure it out, and it really makes you introspective and starting to pay attention to things that you might not have otherwise done.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I definitely, when I started working on my own, there was this aspect of like, we kind of talked about this on the productivity podcast. It's like, well, shit, no one's going to do any of this work for me. And I don't get paid for just like showing up. So I need to be more productive. And then being more productive is like, well, I need to take care of myself and like sleep better and eat better so that I have more energy so I can get more stuff done. And then it becomes like so much mindset. It's like, man, why am I so stressed out all the time? Like I shouldn't be this stressed. But if you've got clients, you've got a couple projects in the works, like you've got some projects like in the pipeline that you think are going to close, but you're not quite there yet. And you have to just trust yourself that you're going to, like get this shit done and be able to perform at a high level. Like it all starts becoming this like, what's the word I'm looking for? This like exponential effect of just like constantly building and growing on what you've been working on. And then I'd never done any personal development before I owned my own business, but then you get into the entrepreneurship world and like my friends are going to Tony Robbins conferences and going to these like personal development weekends. And I'm like, what's that about? So I start checking them out and I'm like, holy shit, like this shit's actually working though. Like I'm a happier person. I'm more productive at work. I'm getting more shit done. I'm making more money. My business is doing better because I'm showing up as a better person. I'm trying to be a better leader. I'm trying to provide more value. I'm trying to do all these things that are completely dependent on me becoming a better person in the process. And I think that's been one of the coolest benefits of running my own business over the last couple of years. Like, I haven't gotten rich yet. I haven't gotten all the things that I thought I would have at this stage of running a business, but like, I'm super stoked that I feel like I've become a person that like I really love hanging out with.
That I agree. That was one of the coolest things for me as well. And it's neat to see personal relationships. Like I'm a person that splits personal and business relationships and money and everything else very, very black and white in my head. And when it overlaps in a really good way, it's really like a great indicator for me. So there's times where I've gone home for Christmas to visit my family and they're like, wow, like look at you, you've changed so much, or your, little things like your vocabulary, your listening, or your patience, or something like that has changed a little bit. And to see people that are that near and dear to you with like your family bring it up and say that is such a rewarding experience for something that you didn't expect in that angle. But do you remember the moment, Brice, the first time that you had that experience where you went to do something that was a little bit outside of the business realm, such as personal development, and then came back and had that feeling of, oh my gosh, that worked?
I mean, I think for me, like, it became this, I went from having a job where I was a bartender and I showed up to work and like served drinks and then drank with the people who I worked with, and on my days off, I would go to the bar and we would drink and shoot pool and have a good time, and that was great and all, but my life then became about like going into my own world of showing up every morning, trying to get as much stuff as I could get done, going to the gym, like trying to take care of my body so that my mind's working well, getting off work and learning about some stuff. So reading or doing something else. So I'm not watching as much TV. And it really became this cycle of like just trying to one up myself and be better than I was yesterday and be the best version of myself that I can show up as today. And that compounded over 6 or 7 years at this stage has it's like just benefited me in every area of my life. The girlfriend I have today is because like the Brice that showed up, when we met a year ago, not the Brice that was around, 5 years ago. The relationships I have in business are the same. Like I get to connect with some really high level entrepreneurs because when we show up and we're hanging out together, I have value to give to them as well. So when you walk into a room of people that are crushing it, like you can help them out as well because you have a lot of value to give because you've been working on building this muscle of being able to give value in certain situations for a long time. So that's kind of my experience on it.
That's awesome. I love that story. My path is similar in the sense that I guess for me, there wasn't like a clear moment until people started asking me questions. When people would come back and say, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. How is it that you'd go about it? And I would answer it without really knowing that I was utilizing the things that I'd learned through personal development. And they would look at me and be like, wow, that's a really good way to do it. I never thought of that. And I think we as humans get so stuck in our minds that everybody else is having the same experience and the same upbringing and whatnot, that you start to think that everyone else thinks just like you do and sees things just like you do. And as you have conversations and realize how much you've grown over the last year, 5 years, whatever, that then you start to share your view verbally with someone else, and seeing their reaction is the biggest indicator for me that I've actually grown. One of the things that I've failed to do at this point that I'm still interested in doing that I think is a huge step in personal development is finding a mentor. Have you ever worked with a mentor?
I would love to find a really good mentor. That's like on my list of things that I've tried to do. I feel like I've almost become not frustrated. Frustrated might not be the right word, but like I've spent enough money with these people, like various people in our space to like, hoping to like find someone to really work with. But, like you spend a couple grand joining a program and you find out that that's not the level that you get the mentorship yet. And it seems like there's always that. So I feel like one day I will find someone who is a really good mentor. I would love to find one. But no, I don't feel like I've had like a mentor. I've had people that I've like followed, but from like the internet path of following.
I wonder if that's becoming the 2019 version of mentors, because I feel like I have really great supportive communities and not an individual to go ask. And it's been the same thing, right? There's not been any one person that's raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in like actually pushing you along this if you want to call, anything like that. But there have been really great communities that I've been a part of. I know we've talked about some offline that you're a part of that have done that for me essentially, or at least filled the gap in the interim. So.
No, definitely. I have gotten a ton of support from communities online. Like for me, being a location independent entrepreneur, the Dynamite Circle and the guys over at Tropical MBA, like that has been one of the best. That's probably the best community that I've been a part of as far as like finding like-minded people. We're both in that ad skills community with Justin Brook, and that's great for PPC guys. And so finding different support groups like that, there's a lot of Facebook groups. I definitely connected with people that way. But no, I think that there is still a form of more structured mentorship. I even went to a mentorship day one time. Like I was a mentorship day event that was in Austin, and they brought some like really big guys in and had them give talks about their mentors and how to find mentors. And one of their advice was like, if you want to be someone's mentor, like start by being their best student. Like most people these days have like programs, you can sign up, you can pay them some amount of money to learn from them, like become their best student and become their best case study, and you'll probably get to work with them. And I've tried that a few times, and I would say that it hasn't been super successful for me. But I still believe like, I think that's something always worth trying, because I don't think that ever ends, like I think, 3 years from now, if we found a mentor that was awesome and wanted to work with us, like there'd still be so much value in that, because there's always someone ahead of you and there's always someone behind you. So if you can work with someone to help them, and you can find someone to work with you to get to the next level, there's just, that brings so much like value and joy to life. I think too, for the first times recently, I met guys who were insanely successful, but they transitioned from this barrier to where it's like they got to the point in life where they made all the money they wanted to make, and they had a lot of the success that they wanted to have, and they were starting to look to like leave more legacy. They like really wanted to find people to work with that could like carry their work on, because they were really good at whatever they did. And I've got to know some people like that. And I think like those are the type of people you could look for in a mentor. The guy that I specifically think of that, I would love to work with, that I know like this, we just don't live in the same spot. So we don't get to stay we don't get to stay really connected. But, like if I lived in the same city as him, I would definitely hit him up and try to spend more time with him. So I think you can find relationships like that, but those are golden relationships. You got to look for them. And that's our mentorship tangent.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I brought it up. I'm not exactly sure how we got onto it, but it is a good one for personal development.
But I think, okay, let's, making it actionable, and like, okay, so you want to run a business, or you run a business now, and you're on this incredible journey where you're going to be going forward and, being the boss and like being the guy that owns everything. I think, what are some things that you can do to start to own that process and start to go down this path so that you can find success faster and have better results? Mike, what would be some of your tips?
So some of the ones that I have are, I think the most important is staying honest and humble with yourself. Personal development is definitely a bumpy road, because you're going to realize a lot of things that you think you're good at that you're not. You're going to realize things that you think you're not good at that you are, and some communication things that you might be doing incorrectly that will bleed into some very personal areas, at least for me. And that was one of the number one takeaways that I've learned over the last few years, is when you experience that, like, accept it and think about it and figure out how you can grow from it, because everything that does get thrown at you, be it good or bad, is a tremendous learning opportunity. Sometimes in the journey that I've had, what I've learned is that it's not relevant to me, and I need to ignore that part. But you have to really do some deep introspective thinking, and staying humble during that is very important. I think that's my number one. What about yours?
Well, just on that, I really like that, because I think in this day and age, it's really easy to think that you should be further than you are, and that this process only takes a little bit of time before you should be successful. And if you're not successful, you should feel bad about it, because all these other people are successful too. But I think all that's bullshit. And I think this process takes, like, you will be growing for the rest of your life. And this process takes a long time. So yeah, that being honest and humble with yourself is super valuable, and just constantly using everything in a learning lesson. I think for me, like one of the biggest turning points in my life was right when I started my own business. I kind of came to this realization that like nobody is coming to save you, and like no one is going to help you. And I made a decision that I was going to take 100% responsibility for everything that was happening in my life. Like, even if somebody does something to me, or I feel like I'm in some situation, like there's always some way where it's like, well, I did something at some point that got myself in this situation. You know, it's like somewhat, you know, like there's always a way where this comes back on me. And so there, because of that, there's a way that I can like learn from this and work on making it better. And when I made that decision and started owning that mindset, my entire life changed. And from that place, I have been able to, you know, accomplish so many things in my personal life and in my business, in my social life, in my health, with everything, because I just stopped taking any excuses for myself about, you know, like, oh, well, I'm not strong because I'm, you know, I'm more of a runner. Oh, well, I'm not so good at going out and networking with people because I'm an introvert. I'm not, you know, like full of excuses. And then I was just like, no, that's all bullshit. And yeah, that literally changed my life.
Yeah, Brice, I completely agree with that. I've, from a young age, had a weird thought on our personal interactions with people and whatnot, to the point where like my mom's car got broken into when I was 10 years old, and I was super happy that it was her because we were in a really poor part of town. And if it was someone else, they might not have been able to afford new books, and that's what they had taken from her, was the college books that she had. And it's a off-topic example to just show the different ways that you can frame things in your mind to do exactly what you're saying, where, you know, if you know that you had some sort of action in there, or that the other person might be having just a different experience, right? So if something does happen to you, say you get yelled at or criticized or something, and realizing that, hey, you know, that person might be having a terrible day, or hey, I might be surrounding myself with the wrong people, you know, that's a really good way to just stay humble and open to the opportunity that it might not be as black and white as it originally felt when that happened. So
yeah, everything is pretty much devoid of meaning until we give it meaning. And so how you choose to look at any situation is the power that you have to take something as good, or something as bad, or something as an opportunity to grow, or something that's terribly devastating and going to ruin your life or your business. You know, like all of these, you know, we've both experienced a lot of rocky parts in our business where you could decide like, this is it. This just means I shouldn't be an entrepreneur. I shouldn't run this business. I should just shut it down. Or you could be like, this is a great opportunity to grow and figure out how to fix this problem. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to have a better business next year. And that's worked for me every time so far.
Nice. I think another one on my side is kind of twofold, but one is writing it down, and the other is practicing what you write down. Anytime I learn something, I make sure and set reminders for myself for if it's something that's, you know, actionable and can be have a reminder with it. But I think it's so easy to go into any sort of personal development, whether it's formalized as in a course or a classroom that you go to, or if it's just something that you learn in a conversation. I think it's very easy to take that and think about all of the opportunities and the things that you could do with that new information, and then 2 hours later forget it and never remember it again. And I think that goes into a lot of things with learning, but especially in this category because it is so personal and sensitive to a lot of people. And then if you take it and you set reminders, be it in your phone or a project management system or a sticky note, doesn't matter, but you just set some sort of reminder to both reflect back on that and figure out how you've implemented that into your life. So what you had just said, Brice, about, you know, thinking about things from a different angle and whatnot. If you set a reminder for 2 weeks from that day, just to look back and say, have I done that? Have I been doing that? Should I increase the frequency of the reminders, or should I do something to make sure that I am actually taking the information, putting it into my life in a positive way, and reflecting back on that?
Yeah, dude, that's super good because I think that's one of the things that I struggle with, and I'm sure a lot of people do, is it's so easy to like learn a bunch of stuff these days because information is everywhere and cram a bunch of stuff into your head. But are you implementing that knowledge? Because implementation is everything. Like if you have a bunch of book knowledge and you don't do anything with it, it's useless. It's not worth anything. You just have a bunch of useless information in your head. You have to implement it. And I find I do that with books, with all kinds of stuff. I'm always trying to figure out, okay, this is great information, but how do I actually use this? Because there's so many books that I've read or courses that I've taken that I didn't implement, and it just became that. It was just like learning something in school that you just, learned it, took the test at the end and forgot. And that's not what helps me a lot grow. So I try not to do that as much. Something that's been super big for me is learning how to set goals and having really big goals that I'm going for. I think that there are, one of the biggest and coolest things about having goals is the person you become as you're trying to achieve those goals. And so even if you don't get to the finish line of that goal or that finish line changes before you get there, that's okay because, you should be setting goals that turn you into the kind of person that you want to be. And so I think through my business, that has been one of the biggest examples of like me setting a goal with a finish line that I haven't gotten to and going through the process of becoming a better communicator, a better person, a better leader, a better team builder, a better marketer, a better financial person, better. When I got started doing this, like I didn't feel super comfortable with spreadsheets. I'm like a spreadsheet ninja these days, because I just did a lot of them. Like there's all these things that I've done that I feel super stoked about. And so, when I reflect on a lot of different things about business and what's gone on the last 5 years since I've been totally on my own, like that's been one of the best things. Like it's been hard running, like it's hard running a business. It is like, it's fun. There's a bunch of freedom and there's a bunch of really cool things about it, but like there are a lot of real challenges to it and it's not easy, but the person you become through going through that is I think just amazing. And then in my example, in the community of people that I spend time with, that's what I hear from a lot of them as well. And most of the guys that I know who run businesses are also very personal development focused. And most people are waking up trying to figure out how to like outperform themselves from yesterday.
Nice. I know the goals thing is a huge one for me, and it's sometimes one that I struggle with just because it takes time to sit down and reflect on it. But there's been certain instances where I had a goal to increase my finance skills or spreadsheets, like you'd said, and I procrastinated for weeks at a time because I thought it was going to be this huge, painful process to learn. And then I went in and did it, and I was like, why did I not finish this 3 weeks ago? It wasn't nearly as hard as I thought. And now you're a spreadsheet ninja, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So I know at the end of that, when I do accomplish those, those goals and I can check it off the list that I've created for myself, it gives me a feeling of being like unstoppable because you've done something that you weren't sure if you could do, you figured it out, and now you kind of look down from that elevated point of like, what's next? What else can I do? And for me, visually, that's what, climbing a ladder is essentially of learning something, standing a little bit higher, and then going after the next rung and the next goal.
Yeah.
So.
I remind myself quite often that this is not like a journey that ends. Like, it's not like in 5 years, We're going to be like, oh, I built the business. Now we are done. Like, no, we're like really young and we have a really, really long way to go. So this is a marathon we're trying to run. And so just doing my best every day to try to outperform who I was yesterday. And like, that's the biggest goal.
Yeah. I think one more on my list is reflecting at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the year, however you want to structure it. But making sure that you take a little bit of time to look back on both how far you've come and where you want to be. So as you increase your awareness into personal development, it's important, or you'll continue to find new areas to go into. And like you'd said, it honestly never does end. You will always continue to do this, which is exciting and thrilling to me. But it's very important to, sometimes stop and look back and realize that both, that you've accomplished a ton up until that point, and then look at the areas of your life personally and professionally that you want to be better, or that you feel like you're struggling with, or that are bringing you tension and conflict, and then figure out what is the best way to approach that, and what are the things that I can learn through personal development to make sure that that's A, fixed in the immediate, but also B, doesn't happen in the future over and over again.
Definitely. I heard someone said to me one time, they were like, the mountain always looks really big and scary when you're looking forward, trying to figure out how far you have to go. But if you'll take a minute to turn around and look back at how far you've come, you'll get really excited and like pat yourself on the back. And reflecting is something that I never did before I started doing this, but now I find myself doing it constantly. I do it at the end of every week. I do it at the end of every month. I do it at the end of every quarter. I do it at the end of every year. And I wish I would do it at the end of every day more, but at the end of the day, I'm usually too tired. But, but it's like constantly just it's a process of taking action, looking back, looking at where you've done, where has that action gotten you? Is that direction you want to go? Yes or no? Great. What should you do next? Make some plans, do some more shit, come back and do that again. And if you do that, I have a weekly planning cycle that my just whole life runs through, where it's like, great, what are we going to do this week based on where we're at, where we want to go? Okay. Now, what's really important right now that we need to work on? And so you ask yourself those questions, and then it's like, boom, all right, how do I make this happen? This is the plan. Work the plan. Do the plan. And then at the end of the week, be like, all right, how'd that go? What should we do this week? And just constantly keep doing that for forever.
Forever. Until eternity.
Well, word, man.
So, cool. Do you have any more? I think that's all I've got on my list here.
That's all I've got, Mike.
Cool. I will say that there's more resources on this topic than I think we could list in any time that we had on the podcast that you and I have both come in contact with. So if anybody out there has specific questions about referrals or, groups or sites or anything that they'd like to hear about, please do reach out. We're more than happy to send you some suggestions based on the industry that you're in or the development process that you're trying to start right now.
Definitely. And I will make it a point to pull a list of stuff and put it all in the show notes for the website, because I can't think of everything right now. But I have found tons of books, tons of courses. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I've listened to a bunch of his stuff. Brian Johnson has a great website called optimize.me that's just about really talking about all aspects of becoming a better person and optimizing your life. And there's also a bunch of great books that you can check out that I have loved. The power of the magic of big thinking. That was a big one. Power of Now. There's just all these great books about this stuff. And so I'll drop a bunch of those in the show notes. I'll go look through all my stuff and put them in there, because I really do, I really believe this has been one of the biggest, if not the biggest benefit of running my own business, has been coming in contact with personal development and really jumping down that rabbit hole and going from someone who, when I was 22 and I started working online, I wasn't a super confident person. I didn't have this huge courageous spirit that I feel like I could just conquer anything. I just kind of felt like I, was not super sure what was going on most of the time. And now today I feel like quite the opposite. I feel like a really confident person. I feel like I can pretty much tackle anything. I feel like I can handle anything. And I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. And I'm super stoked to wake up every day. And if that's not an awesome benefit of, going down this path of building a business and becoming an entrepreneur, then I don't know what's better than that.
I agree. I think that might be the number one motivator after you start to get into it beyond anything else, is just becoming better. So I love that, Brice.
I use my business to pay for this kind of shit all the time too. This isn't coming out of my pocket. This is, Major Impact Media pays for this. When Brice flies to a Tony Robbins conference, Major Impact Media paid for that. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Yep.
Sweet, man. Well, if that's all we got today, what a great topic to talk about. I hope you got some benefit out of this episode. We were just chatting about, hey, what can we do an episode about? And it's we kind of brought up this topic and we were like, That's I love this topic. I will talk about this all day. Mike said the same, so we decided to do this. So thanks for joining us. I hope you got some great benefit out of this. Come back next week. We're going to be doing another one of these. It'll probably be a lot more focused on business. And if you want to check out some business stuff, we did a couple of episodes recently. We've got one on productivity and how to be more productive while you're working. And we've got another one about how to set up your online business. And so you can check out those episodes in the podcast app of your choice. Please leave us a review if you really like this, because that's how the internet functions and it helps us know what you liked, and we can do more of these. And then next week, we're going to have some cool topic. I don't know what it is. Mike, I don't think you know what it is.
We don't know what it is
but
yet.
It's going to be awesome. We're going to just keep doing this because, we really enjoy it. So I hope you come back and see us again.